They not only bypassed my promotion ceremony, they went ahead and booked a cruise instead. As I stood upon the stage, facing the sea of hundreds, the front row remained conspicuously vacant. As the clock struck midnight, my phone illuminated with a staggering 74 missed calls, accompanied by a solitary text from my mother, "We need to talk." What transpired following that moment? Let us simply state, they were utterly unprepared for what lay ahead. Before we embark on this journey, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts, for this tale transcends mere familial ties. It's a profound exploration of the choice to embrace one's true self. It all began that fateful night, when I came to the stark realization that my success held no value for those I had given everything up for. On the day of my promotion ceremony, an empty seat awaited me. Instead, my parents embarked on a cruise with my sister. I remained unresponsive. As I descended from the stage, the commanding officer grasped my hand firmly and presented me with documents that would alter the course of my life forever. As the clock struck midnight, my phone displayed a staggering 74 missed calls alongside a message from my mother. "It's time for a conversation." Have you ever heard the notion that the most silent moments can resonate the loudest? It wasn't until that moment, standing before a sea of faces, the bright lights blinding me, cameras flashing like stars, and the sound of applause reverberating through the air, that I truly understood the weight of my solitude as I gazed upon the empty seat in the front row. It was meant to be a sanctuary for my family, my progenitors, perhaps my sister, should she choose to honor me with her presence. Yet, the chair remained there, unoccupied and still. It transcended mere symbolism. It was intentional. I had devoted much of my existence to being the steadfast one. The individual who mastered the art of balancing two part-time jobs during college. All to spare my parents from the burden of co-signing yet another loan for my sister's out-of-state tuition. The individual who returned home after the second year of college, prompted by my father's insistence that the family required my presence following my mother's layoff. Only for her to be reinstated just 3 weeks later, without a single word of acknowledgement. And my sister, Jessica, it can be said that she possesses a remarkable ability to transform each act of kindness into a looming obligation. Initially, it began with giving her rides to class, followed by assisting her with her move, and eventually, I found myself taking on the burden of credit card debt she had overlooked. Yet, I found it of no concern. That is what I convinced myself of. At the very least, I reassured myself that I was making the right choice, that their love for me was evident, even if their expressions of it fell short. One day, they would come to realize the sacrifices I made, and in that moment, pride would swell within them. Upon receiving the email from corporate HR regarding the promotion ceremony, I realized it was a significant occasion, an event that promised to be grand. Complete with catering and the presence of executives. Invite your cherished ones. I shared it in the family group chat, letting them know I would reserve seats for them. Silence has lingered for 2 days. In response, my mother spoke. "I won't be able to attend. Embark on a journey with Jessica. Reserved well in advance." That was the moment. Negative. Heartfelt congratulations. Negative. Your achievements fill us with pride. Simply glide along. On a Tuesday, the world unfolded in its usual rhythm. In the heart of August, the memory lingers, vivid and palpable, as the oppressive humidity enveloped me, causing beads of sweat to soak through my shirt during the trek from the parking garage. The ceremony took place in the Madison Avenue Auditorium. Champagne flutes filled with orange juice, elegantly printed programs, and charming little notebooks adorned with gold leaf lettering graced the occasion. My colleagues arrived with their spouses, children, friends, and even neighbors in tow. Individuals gathered to capture moments against the backdrop of the stage. I lingered at the periphery, observing as they shared laughter and embraced one another. I felt no anger, merely devoid of feeling. I had anticipated this, in a manner of speaking. However, I was unprepared for what unfolded next. They called my name. I traversed the stage, exchanging handshakes with several department heads. Then the CO, a man named Marshall who typically exudes a no-nonsense demeanor, grasped my handshake with an unusual intensity. With a gentle smile, He extended a slender envelope towards me. I believed it was merely the new contract. I had already affixed my signature to the initial agreement. Yet HR indicated that they would review the final terms in person. Within the confines of the envelope lay 2 documents. I have received confirmation of my promotion to Senior Program Director. A revised contract was the other document. A base salary in the 6-figure range. Equity derivatives. A quarterly performance bonus substantial enough to settle my parents' mortgage in a single disbursement. A note penned by hand. Your leadership merits recognition beyond mere nomenclature. Let us embark on a grand endeavor. I remained utterly still, my eyes unflinching. I carefully folded the papers, tucking them into my inner pocket, and stepped off the stage. On that particular evening, I found myself dining in solitude. Takeout from Tai Tai in the East Village, accompanied by a cold beer and a serene silence. At approximately 11:45, I finally glanced at my phone. 74 missed calls. The voicemail icon appeared as though it had succumbed to a sudden and dramatic crisis. At the pinnacle, a message from my mother, marked with the time 11:02 p.m. It is imperative that we engage in a conversation. Upon discovering those 74 missed calls, I found no urgency in pressing play to listen. I failed to return any calls. I refrained from even glancing at the messages. I placed the phone gently on the counter, cracked open another beer, and settled into the soft light of the TV screen. As a late-night rerun flickered in the background, for the very first time in my existence, I sensed no compulsion to respond to them. As dawn broke, the phone calls resumed, piercing the stillness at 7 o'clock. My mother, my father, Jessica, one after another, as if they had all come to a silent agreement to take their turns until I finally surrendered. My voicemail notifications piled up with such urgency that my phone seemed to implore me to address them. By lunchtime, my email inbox was aglow with subject lines that resembled ominous alerts rather than mere communications. Reach out to us without delay. This is not amusing. Do not overlook the importance of your family. It was nearly a performance of grand proportions. I envisioned them nestled in a cruise ship lounge, devices in hand, exhausting international minutes in a desperate attempt to penetrate my thoughts once more. I refrained from taking a bite. In the workplace, I found that others regarded me in a distinct manner. The promotion transformed me into a figure they now sought to impress. To draw near to, I noticed the looks on my coworkers' faces as I strolled by. Admiration, intrigue, a touch of jealousy. Typically, I would find myself in a state of discomfort regarding it. That week, however, it seemed to ignite a fire within. As I garnered recognition in my professional life, the significance of my family's approval began to wane. As Wednesday night descended, my father's number appeared once more. This time, I responded. He leapt right in. No greeting. Negative. How do you fare? Simply, Trav, lend me your ear. We were unaware that the ceremony held such significance. Your mother and Jessica were quite insistent about the cruise, and the payment had already been settled. We believed you would grasp it. I remained silent. He broke the stillness. Yet, family remains family. It is time for us to move forward and leave this in the past. Your steadfastness has always been your hallmark, and it would be unwise to cast that aside for the fleeting moments of a single night. That line nearly brought a chuckle to my lips. In the span of a single night, throughout my entire adult life, I had woven a tapestry of sacrifices for them. I was the one who prevented the power company from extinguishing their lights. I was the one who provided a bit of assistance, sending money to cover Jessica's credit card bills. In the quiet hours of the weekend, I found myself rising early, dedicating my energy to mending their leaky roof, all while my own desires lingered unfulfilled. And on that one night I requested their presence, they lounged on a deck chair, sipping mojitos with a sense of ease. I ended the call in silence. The following day, my phone vibrated once more, yet this time it was a message from my grandfather. He stands apart as the sole individual who has never sought anything from me. The sole voice that resonated with honesty. He seized the moment without hesitation. I have come to learn of the promotion. Heartfelt congratulations. Then his tone changed. I also heard that your parents decided to leave. Your mother reached out to me in tears. expressing that you've been distant, that something about you has shifted. I inquired about his thoughts. He let out a soft, weary chuckle. What are my thoughts? They are not shedding tears over the absence from your ceremony. They weep, lamenting the fleeting opportunity to assert their claim over you once more. They perceive it now. The reins have slipped from their grasp. That lingered in my mind throughout the day. It was as if the truth I had been orbiting finally emerged. Unspoken yet palpable. As Friday approached, my parents decided to take a different route. Words emerging from the void. Your accomplishments fill us with pride. Your success was never in doubt for us. Snapshots from the cruise adorned with playful captions such as, "Wish you were here," and "Celebrating for you." Jessica sent me a delightful photo, showcasing her holding a vibrant neon cocktail adorned with a whimsical straw umbrella. Her caption read, "Congrats, big bro. Drinks are on you when we return." Right? It felt nearly like a slight. They believed they could effortlessly slip back in as if nothing had transpired. As if my recollections could be erased by mere emojis and fleeting sentimentality. I gazed at my phone, my finger gliding over their messages, and a sudden clarity struck me. Piercing and irrevocable. I felt no anger. Anger signified that I was still in need of something from them. What I experienced now was a chill deeper than anger. It was liberation. For the very first time in my existence, I found myself free from their necessity. They were aware of it. Upon my parents' return from their cruise, a clear vision of my next steps had already taken shape in my mind. Cease all acts of goodwill. Cease all transfers. Rescue missions are a thing of the past. I had no intention of barging into their home and unleashing a torrent of accusations about treachery. Drama, chaos, and guilt trips were the very essence of their existence. They had a remarkable talent for transforming every conflict into a narrative where they emerged as the innocent victims. While I was cast in the role of the heartless, ungrateful son, I chose to allow my actions to convey my intentions. Silence would become my greatest ally. The initial fracture appeared sooner than I had anticipated. As the sun dipped below the horizon on Tuesday evening, Jessica's call came through while I remained ensconced in the office. For some inexplicable reason, I found myself answering the call. She completely disregarded the notion of small talk. "My vehicle is currently undergoing repairs. The mechanic has informed me that a new transmission is required. A minimum of $2,000. At this moment, I find myself lacking the necessary funds. Would you be able to take care of it for me? I promise to repay you." Her voice carried a familiar urgency, one I had encountered countless times in the past. Her words resonated through time. A haunting refrain from the past. The very same pleas she made when she implored me to settle her credit card debts. "I shall repay you." She never did. This time, I refrained from delivering a lecture to her. I kept silent about the countless times I had shielded her from the consequences of her errors over the years. I simply stated, "No, you'll find a way to resolve it." And then the call ended. It seemed almost surreal, as though I had just transgressed an unvoiced code of family conduct. The stillness that ensued extended beyond the confines of the phone. It resided within me as well, as if I had at last severed the tether that had been suffocating me for countless years. It was 2 days later when my father reached out to me. He began with a casual tone, inquiring about work, feigning that nothing was amiss. Yet, just 5 minutes later, he changed his position. "Trav, lend me your ear. I find myself lagging behind on a few bills. It's merely a fleeting moment. As you well understand, would you be able to lend a hand this month? It hardly seems significant for you at this moment, considering your new salary and everything that comes with it." The final segment left me utterly stunned. How could he possibly be aware of my salary? I had kept it to myself. Sharing it with no one beyond the confines of my workplace. The specifics of my contract remained under wraps, and HR has a reputation for maintaining strict confidentiality regarding compensation. I inquired directly, "Who was it that shared that with you?" After a moment of hesitation, he finally spoke, revealing that your mother had a conversation with an individual who is connected to someone in our. News travels fast. That was utterly perplexing. Not within my organization. Salaries were protected with a vigilance akin to that of a vault's security. The manner in which he articulated his thoughts, as if he were meticulously constructing a case against me, triggered a cacophony of alarms in my mind. I concluded the conversation abruptly, informing him that I needed to leave. Yet, the discomfort persisted throughout the night. As the night deepened, I found myself at my kitchen table, savoring Thai takeout from East Village, when suddenly, my laptop chimed. A fresh email awaits. The address was unfamiliar to me. A nondescript Gmail account composed of a haphazard arrangement of letters and numbers. The subject line sent a jolt of tension through my gut. There is a scheme in the works. The communication was brief. No salutation. There is no signature. Exercise caution with them. They have been probing into your financial affairs. Contemplate the reasons behind it. I stood still, my eyes scanning the words repeatedly. Initially, I was convinced it must be a scam or perhaps a clever prank. However, it refrained from requesting any payment and did not feature a dubious link. Merely that caution. It was a notion that resonated profoundly. As soon as I heard my dad's voice on the line, he dove straight into the topic of my salary. He failed to inquire about my well-being. He failed to offer his congratulations to me. He pursued wealth with unwavering determination. If they were excavating, it was not out of mere curiosity. It was a carefully crafted strategy. I chose not to respond. I chose not to forward it. I closed the laptop and settled into the shadows. For years, I believed the most they could do was overlook me, brush me aside, or drain me of all I had. Yet, for the first time, a thought began to stir within me. What if their desires extended beyond mere handouts? What if they perceived my promotion not as a personal triumph, but rather as a fresh opportunity for themselves? And who on earth was observant enough to send me that email? The email lingered in the recesses of my thoughts, a persistent thorn I was unable to extract. At work, I found myself repeatedly gazing at my screen, my eyes tracing the same line of text, yet failing to truly grasp its meaning. A voice of caution echoed in my mind. But whose was it? What is the reason behind this? 2 nights later, the answer revealed itself to me. As I stepped out of the building, weary from a long day, a voice called out my name, breaking the evening's stillness. I pivoted and caught sight of Mark, one of the senior accountants. He was not one to dawdle or engage in idle conversation. He maintained a steadfast professionalism, always swift in his comings and goings. Yet that evening, he appeared restless, as if on the brink of revealing a secret. "Did you receive my message?" he inquired softly. For a fleeting moment, clarity eluded me. In that moment, realization washed over me. "The correspondence. Was that you?" I inquired. He inclined his head, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Last week, your mother reached out to payroll. She mentioned that she was assisting you with your taxes. She requested that they verify your salary," followed by an inquiry into the specifics of bonuses and stock options. Despite HR's refusal, she persisted in her pursuit. It was flagged and directed towards me. I assumed you wouldn't wish for that to remain hidden, so I felt it necessary to give you a heads up. I remained there, utterly astonished. My own mother, masquerading as my tax assistant, merely to pry into figures she had no business uncovering. Mark continued onward. "This is a familiar sight to me. When one member of the family comes into a windfall, it's as if a magnetic force draws the others in, each one orbiting around the newfound wealth. The requests do not cease with a single plea. Exercise caution." He cast me a glance that suggested he had revealed more than intended, then turned and walked away. As I navigated the road back home, my fingers clenched the steering wheel with such intensity that a dull ache began to spread through my hands. It had transcended the realm of mere paranoia. They were not merely exhibiting carelessness. They were relentlessly attempting to force their way into my existence, eager to uncover whatever they could seize. That weekend, everything reached its climax. On a Saturday morning, a knock echoed through my door. My progenitors. It was the first occasion they had ever arrived without an invitation. They didn't bother to feign any pretense. My mom dove right in. My dad and she had been contemplating the idea of investing in a small business. A cafe, perhaps, or a rental property. They believed that given my new circumstances, I would be inclined to join forces with them. My father stood behind her, nodding as if everything made perfect sense. I remained rooted in the doorway. They pressed on, undeterred. It would be a matter of family. My father remarked, "You would gain just as much as we do. Our unwavering support has always been with you. Here lies an opportunity for you to contribute." The final line nearly brought a smile to my face. Return the favor? After years of exhausting my resources, they sought to have me fund their next misguided venture under the guise of kin. As silence lingered, the edge in my mom's voice became unmistakable. "Michael, can you not see it? All that you are, all that you have accomplished. It is a testament to our influence. We offered you our all. Without our presence, you would not find yourself in this very moment." In that moment, a profound transformation took root within me, irrevocably altering my path. No further inquiries were made. They sought to reshape the narrative of my existence into a burden of debt I allegedly owed them. I informed them of my packed weekend, took a step back, and shut the door before them. From the other side, I caught the faint sound of my father's voice, murmuring something about my perceived ingratitude. My mother persisted, rapping on the door once, then twice, before finally conceding defeat. At last, their footsteps dwindled into silence. Within those walls, I found myself enveloped in silence, my heart racing with each beat. They were not merely pleading. They were not merely engaging in manipulation. A scheme was unfolding. Should they be prepared to sift through HR and arrive at my doorstep with their plans? I found myself confronted with a more challenging inquiry. To what lengths were they truly prepared to venture? When my parents arrived at my doorstep with their small business proposal, a certain resolve began to take root within me. I came to the understanding that there was nothing I needed to share with them. Avoid any clashes. No explanations are provided. Silently, the cuts fell, one after the other, until the cord was severed completely. The initial action was straightforward. The shared credit card I had unwisely opened for Jessica during our college days. Only in case of emergencies. It was never intended for emergencies. It had served as her shopping fund, her bar tab, her very essence. Upon logging in, I settled the balance and subsequently closed the account. Completed. The gas bill followed next. For years, I had it on autopay, as they frequently overlooked it, and the shut-off notices caused my mom considerable anxiety. I had borne its weight for such an extended period that the burden had become almost invisible to me. I entered, erased my payment details, and closed that chapter as well. At last, I chose to overlook Jessica's typical ambiguous messages. "This month, the rent is a bit delayed. Could you lend a hand just this once? My paycheck hasn't cleared. Could you lend me some money?" This time, I chose silence. The sight of those unread messages accumulating brought me an unexpected sense of tranquility. I anticipated the repercussions would be swift, heated phone calls, emotional manipulations, and pointed accusations. Yet, that is not the way it unfolded. Instead, it began to infiltrate my life from unexpected angles, through voices I hadn't encountered in ages. Initially, my Aunt Diane reached out. She began with light conversation. Yet in just 5 minutes, she was deftly navigating toward the main subject. "Your parents have made countless sacrifices for you, Michael. They consistently ensured that you were provided with everything you required. Family must always watch over one another. Ultimately, that is what holds significance." She then nonchalantly mentioned that my mother had shared with her that I was thriving financially these days, and that it was a blessing for all involved. I remained silent, allowing her to exhaust her words until the call ended. The following day, Jason reached out to me via Facebook. "Congratulations on the significant raise. My friend, I've heard you're absolutely thriving. So, hear me out. I'm in the process of launching this small side venture, but we're lacking the necessary funds. I would be delighted to include you." It struck me with the force of a brick. My parents were not merely plotting on their own. They were broadcasting the news, transforming my promotion into a matter of public discourse, as if I were a walking ATM for the entire family to queue up to. And then arrived the unexpected twist. My grandfather reached out to me. In contrast to the rest, he confronted it head-on. "Your mother has been quite vocal," he remarked. She's spreading the word that you're purchasing them a house. Is it a house, Michael? Half of the family is already convinced of it. I nearly let the phone slip from my grasp. A dwelling? These were not mere whispers in the wind. Conversations unfolded around me, crafting a narrative of my future that I was not even a part of. Mr. Harrison had more to say. They will persist in their efforts until you either relent or sever ties with them. This pattern has unfolded before my eyes throughout my entire existence. At last, you possess the strength to decline. He mentioned that a family barbecue was planned for that weekend at my uncle's house. And he expressed a desire for my presence. I attempted to decline, yet he was unwavering in his insistence. Trust me, he urged. Now is the moment to reclaim the narrative from their hands. Thus, I ventured forth. As I stepped into the backyard of the Queen's Brooklyn brownstone, an unmistakable sensation enveloped me. The gazes, the tiny grins, people had transformed, their demeanor suddenly infused with warmth and an inviting spirit that surpassed anything experienced before. It felt as though I had struck gold, and they were all poised to claim their share. My mother was never one to squander a moment. In just 10 minutes, she found herself surrounded by family, recounting the tale of how it all unfolded. Michael has at last found himself in a position to provide for the family. Indeed, it is so. We are contemplating the prospect of moving to a more spacious abode in the near future. She spoke as if the matter were settled, as though I had inked my agreement on documents hidden from my view. My uncle gave me a hearty clap on the back, a wide grin spreading across his face. A commendable individual. Family comes first. Regret will never find a place in your heart. Once more, Eric found me cornered, relentlessly probing into his enterprise. I found myself in the heart of a bustling marketplace, surrounded by eager voices, each one vying for my attention. The sole individual who remained unconvinced was my grandfather, perched in a lawn chair to the side, arms crossed, observing intently. As our gazes locked, he offered me a subtle nod. Not so much encouragement, but rather an allowance, authorization to finally unveil the truth behind this elaborate facade. And there I stood, encircled by kin who regarded me as little more than a source of funds rather than a member of the family. And in that moment, I resolved that this was precisely the path I would take. I found myself standing there, a paper plate of food clutched in my hand, as my mother regaled my relatives with tales of the dwelling I was, it seems, purchasing on their behalf. She laughed as if it were already unfolding, as though I was merely a formality from relinquishing the keys. A sudden shift occurred within me. I set the plate down with a deliberate motion, my voice rising just enough for the entire group to catch my words. I have no intention of purchasing a house for anyone. That will not come to pass. For eternity. The murmurs that surrounded us faded into silence. My uncle appeared bewildered. My Jason halted abruptly, words caught in his throat. My mother faced me, her smile taut and unwavering. Michael, please refrain from saying that in this place. Misunderstandings will arise among people. I gently shook my head, a subtle gesture of disbelief. Indeed, their misunderstanding stems from the falsehoods you shared with them. I will not be covering your expenses. I refuse to finance Jessica's way of living. I have no intention of investing in anyone's business. I have reached my limit with being the family's financial support. The ensuing silence weighed upon me more than I had anticipated. My father whispered a remark regarding my being ungrateful as it may seem. My grandfather interjected before I had the chance to reply. He entered the circle, his voice slicing through the Queen's Brooklyn brownstone backyard with the precision of a blade. Unappreciative, I would like to take a moment to remind everyone present. Michael stands as the sole bearer of burden in this family. He settled your bills, rescued you from financial turmoil, ensured your home was illuminated. And in return, you offered him nothing but excuses and getaways. Now that he has finally crafted something of his own, you seek to drain him of it once more. That does not constitute family. That is parasitic behavior. The backyard of the Brooklyn brownstone in Queens lay enveloped in a profound silence. My mother's complexion drained of color, while my father fixed his gaze upon the earth beneath him. A few relatives shifted in their seats, feigning ignorance of their involvement. Eric let out a feeble chuckle, as if he believed this could all be a simple mix-up. But Mr. Harrison interrupted him once more. "And allow me to clarify," he stated, fixing his gaze directly on my parents. "Your days of manipulation and exploitation have come to a definitive close. Do not harbor any illusions about receiving a single penny from me. For you shall not. I would prefer to entrust everything to Michael, the sole member of this family who truly comprehends the worth of his earnings." It felt as though an explosion had erupted. My mother began to falter in her speech as she spoke of the importance of family unity. My father attempted to frame the situation differently, suggesting that Mr. Harrison was being overly dramatic. Jessica was absent, likely preoccupied with yet another crisis of her own making. Yet, the remainder of the family perceived it for what it truly was: a public reprimand that left them with no grounds for dissent. I departed shortly thereafter. I believe my grandfather, after many years, embraced a sense of freedom. Not the fleeting sense that follows the resolution of a crisis, but the enduring realization that emerges when you understand that no one possesses you any longer. As the weeks unfolded, the flurry of calls and messages began to wane. My parents explored every avenue: guilt, apology, anger, silence, but none of it bore fruit. Jessica dispatched a flurry of messages concerning her car emergency, yet they remained unanswered. Once it became evident that no payout was forthcoming, the relatives who had unexpectedly found me fell silent once more. Amidst everything, my grandfather continued to reach out, simply to see how I was doing. "There are no demands. There's no need to feel any pressure." A voice echoing softly, affirming that my decision to say no was not born of madness. Ultimately, my family received precisely what they had worked for: distance. And I reclaimed the one thing they could never seize from me again: my life. Lived on my own terms. The latest information: 4 days have passed since the barbecue, and the aftermath is precisely as I anticipated: utterly chaotic. My mother has taken to sending lengthy messages at all hours, oscillating between guilt-laden undertones and feigned affection. One message will convey: "You've humiliated us before all. How could you do this? As we look ahead, let us embrace our pride in you, leaving the past behind and stepping forward together as a family." My father has reached out only a single time. He failed to even bring up the barbecue. He simply inquired, without any preamble, whether I could assist with their mortgage this month since the situation is constrained. I ended the call. At last, Jessica added her voice to the conversation. She dispatched a voice note that unfolded as a tirade, accusing me of selfishness for abandoning them now that I had finally come into some money. She concluded by stating that she couldn't make it to work until I forwarded her some cash for her car. I chose not to engage with that one at all. The true revelation has come from the family members. A few of them contacted me in private, yet their intentions were not to solicit funds. They expressed their regrets, acknowledging that they had been unaware of the burdens I had been shouldering for so long. One even confessed that my parents had long portrayed me as cold. Yet after listening to my grandfather articulate his perspective, they began to see things in a new light. Last night, Mr. Harrison placed a call, spoke with a sense of pride. "I am proud of you, my son. It took you quite some time to finally step away from their game. Embrace the journey of your existence." That was everything. Yet, it held greater significance than all the clamor emanating from the others. Up to this point, I have stood my ground. I have yet to respond to any request. As I sit here, savoring Thai takeout from East Village in tranquil solitude, free from the incessant buzz of my phone every hour, a revelation dawns upon me, one I never anticipated. It is surprisingly tranquil in their absence, and I find it quite enjoyable.